Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I wanted to do a video today talking about something that is really kind of ticking me off. One of my biggest pet peeves. I think it's something that is totally unprofessional when you violate this. And I was going to talk about both sides of this. One, first of all, about don't violate this, and second of all, what you can do when someone else, or to prevent yourself from having this problem. So what I'm talking about today is basically paying your invoices or paying your bills on time. And so I don't do a whole lot of consulting work now. I try to limit that. I don't really need to do consulting work, so I pretty much produce. That's what I prefer to do. But occasionally I will work for some company, or I'll do something that will incur an invoice, right? That I'm supposed to get paid for. Well, I'm in this mode now where I'm waiting for some invoices to be paid, and they haven't been paid on time. And it really, nothing ticks me off more than this, because I feel like it's just a slap in the face, and it's extremely unprofessional, especially when a company doesn't pay their invoice on time. It's just horrible, right? I can almost always judge the caliber of a company by the time it takes them to pay their invoice. So just really bad. It's something that I've struggled with quite a bit. I'm going to talk about how to deal with this as a contractor, someone who's trying to get paid in a minute here. But before I get into that, I just want to tell you, if you are on that side, if you're supposed to pay a bill or pay an invoice, it looks really, really bad when you don't pay it on time. And if I'm going to take the other side and tell you, how to make sure that your invoices get paid on time, or the best way to ensure that, then I also have to say, look, if you don't be that guy, don't be that company that doesn't pay on time. It's just a horrible habit to get into, and there's really no reason to. I really don't understand why anyone would ever play this stupid game. I've been on the phone calling people. I've done this whole back and forth. Oh, the check's in the mail. It doesn't make very much sense at all, because you're going to have to pay it eventually, right? So playing this game about an invoice is just ridiculous. So don't do it. If you are, if you're paying for someone's services, pay them immediately. Don't play around with it, and don't, because it's just very unprofessional, and people aren't going to want to work with you. And just for an example, and this is part of the reason why I don't understand this on the other side, why people even do this, is if you send me an invoice, if I hire you for some work, I pay that immediately. There's been times where someone has sent me an invoice, and I happen to be in my Gmail inbox, and I immediately paid it like within 5 minutes. That's how quickly I pay invoices, because I know it's gonna be paid, right? I know I have to pay it, so I might as well pay it right away. There's no sense in drawing this out. And yes, I know terms, I know net 15 and net 30, net 90, all this stuff, but regardless, for the most part, you should be paying your invoices as quickly as possible, not playing games. Okay, so now, what happens if you are on the other side of this? So this is infuriating, right? I mean, I've literally wasted hours and hours every month with some companies trying to get them to pay their invoices, and being on the phone with them on Skype, and getting all kinds of excuses. So what can you do if you are in my situation, where you're consulting or you're doing some kind of contract services, and you want to make sure that your invoices get paid? So the biggest tip that I have here is to basically make sure that you take payment up front, right? So, and this is what I normally do, right? So every time I don't do this, I end up getting screwed, and that's what's happened with the companies right now that I'm waiting for invoices for. And sometimes you can't do that, right? There's certain payments that I'm waiting for right now that I can't get paid up front. Just part of the deal. But for the most part, if you can, in fact, I just refuse to do business with anyone who won't pay me up front. So if I'm charging hourly, and my hourly rate right now, minimum hourly rate, is $500 an hour. If I'm charging that rate, what I'll do is, if someone wants let's say a day worth of my time, I'll charge them, it'll be $4,000, so they can pay that up front, and then they have 8 hours that they can use how they want. That's a day of my time. Or if I'm going to charge them, most of the time I'm going to work by the day or the week. So maybe I'll say, okay, I will work with you, do this project with you next week, but you need to pay me the $20,000 upfront, and then you're paid a week in advance. So what I do is I have people pay in advance, and then they have a budget of hours or my time, of days or whatever it is of my time. And then when that gets down to zero, then they need to pay again if they want me to continue working with them. And so that, for the most part, that works. And that's what I would highly recommend that you do, regardless of what bill rate that you're billing. Just say that you bill up front. And that, and one way to do this is to sort of productize it. So if you bill by the day, which is probably better than billing by the hour, or bill by the week, then you can say that this is sort of a package, and you can put together what you do, especially if you're a specialist, right? Which I talk about. If you have a niche, a very specific thing that you do, you can go in and do this. So I'll give you an example of someone doing this that works really well. I can't remember the guy, but I saw this guy that creates landing pages, like sales pages for companies, right? For where it gives their product and features and everything, and he does it in a day, and he charges I think $1,000, right? And so typically that would be a consulting type of thing where he'd bill by the hour, but because he's productized that, it's called productized consulting actually. Because he's done that, he can basically put a checkout button on his webpage, and you pay the $1,000 up front, so he's prepaid, and then he does the work. So that's the number one way to prevent this problem. If a client is paid up front, you're not going to have to worry about invoices. And like I said, that's not always going to work. There are going to be some clients where that's not going to be a possibility. But for my purposes, at least, and I'm saying this from now on, I'm not working with anyone who hasn't paid me up front. I'm just tired of it. It's not worth it for me. I'll say goodbye to $5,000-$10,000, whatever. I don't care, because when I spend 10, 20 hours chasing that money down, it's no longer worth it. So that's just how I'm operating from now on. And I'd recommend that, unless you like chasing invoices, that you do something similar at least. The other thing that you can do is, first of all, you can get a good contract in place that spells out the terms very explicitly, so that you could lawyer up if you need to, and not a handshake deal. I've done handshake deals in the past, and this is where you end up having the problems, right? So spelled out, along with that, spell out late terms. So if someone is going to pay the invoice late, what are they going to make the fees just ridiculous? Make it so that it's just horrible to pay late. You could also, in that, work an early payment discount, 5% or something like that, where you give them a discount if they pay 15 days early or something like that. And that works out as well. But if you can take the payment up front, do that. That's much better than this other stuff. At that point, you don't even have to have a solid contract, right? Because if you got the payment up front, you don't have to worry. So so that's what I'd say. And then if you get into this position where someone hasn't paid you, right? This is something that's kind of critical that a lot of people miss. Is sometimes when companies don't pay, it's because they have a cash flow problem. And in that case, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So what you want to do there is, as soon as someone hasn't paid you and it's late, you start sending emails. You start making calls. In fact, if you can do the least resistance thing, it's just send emails and send one the next day and the next day and the next day. And you just make it so annoying. You bug the hell out of them, so that if they're going to choose who they're going to pay first, it's going to be you, right? Because maybe they have 10 bills and they can only pay 5 of them. If you're the squeaky wheel, you're going to get paid because they want to get you off their back. They're tired of you. So that can work as well. But once you've hit that point, it's really, really a pain, and you should really, consider not doing business with that company again. So anyway, that's my tips for it. I'll be totally honest here. If you've got something better than that, let me know, because I struggle with this. I'm still, as much as I'm going to refuse work that hasn't been paid up front, I know I'm still going to struggle with this, because there are still going to be situations where I have some payment coming in or something, royalty or something like that, that I can't accept the payment up front. So I'm curious to hear if you've got some good ideas. Because this is something that, and this is something you should be aware of as a freelancer. You're going to have to struggle with this if you're thinking about becoming a freelancer or consultant. This is just one of those really bad pains. But like I said, if you are on the other end of this, right, if you just realize how bad this looks and how much this pisses people off, like nothing pisses me off more than, it's just common decency, right? When someone renders a service, they deserve to be paid for that service, right? When you jack around with their pay and you don't pay them on time, that's just serious protocol breach. That just says that you are a jackass. That just says that you don't have any kind of professional courtesy. I pay people when they do work for me, and I pay them on time. So anyway, enough with my rant about this. Like I said, if you've got some tips on this or even an interesting story about this, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below. Email me at john@simpleprogrammer.com. And in fact, if you've been doing this for a while and you've got this would be a good interview topic to do on the Simple Programmer channel and podcast. So if you have some expertise in this area, I'd love to talk to you and maybe do an interview. Anyway, if you like this video, definitely subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.